going to do an insight video today, and I've woken up today and it feels like there's a shifting in vibration, a shifting in vibration of life, like vibration of energy, and I'm sort of like connecting into this. I'm connecting into the sort of the energy of it this morning. I feel like there's definitely like a load of guidance, a load of sort of like intuition around this morning. I feel like my whole body is like vibrating differently. So I know there's a shift and change in the energy that's integrating on the planet at the moment. We can feel these shifts and these integrations, and these shifts and these integrations are usually sort of like these sort of like beings that are sort of like guiding us, and source energy and source integration of like shifting in our vibration patterns and our frequency, but it also affects our consciousness. And uh, this sort of like vibration is very light, it's very bright, but it's also sort of, again, it's sort of, I've been directed to sort of like talk about sort of like the teachings of like illumination, and you start talking about like Lord Lanto, that was an ascended master, which was very much around illumination. He sort of like he walked on the planet, and he was illuminated. But it's not just Lord Lanto, it's like all the ascended masters, all these ascended beings that work with us, and there's many ascended beings. When we talk about like the ascended beings, and we talk about the Great White Brotherhood, and we talk about these teachers and the universal teachers as infinite universal teachers, as infinite sort of like ascended beings that are working with us at the moment in this process. And this is why we're receiving all this kind of information and this insight, and sort of like the awakening, the activation of our source energy and our source being. And I use the word source energy, source being, because that's what this time's about. It's very much around sort of like creation, it's very much around alignment, it's very much about coming back into union, and it's very much around sort of unconditional as well. Unconditional is source energy. And illumination is very much, as a teaching, is very much around that. It very much connects to the universal laws, but it also connects to our understanding of shifting and changing and dissolving, but also aligning. Illumination is very much a teaching where we're coming back into ascension, which is back into this sort of like, I've talked about this concept of the law of one, where there's only one vibration, there's one frequency, and there is no separation. And again, over the weekend, I've had many sort of instances of this. I was sort of going for a run again on the treadmill, and this is usually a time where I very much align, and it works for my energy, because when I'm running, it sort of releases all the tension, the stress, like within my physical body, but it also aligns my spirit, because it gives me that space and that time. And over the weekend, I very much was receiving sort of like about being in like the one vibration, the one moment, being present, in this state of being where you're very much sort of like, there's no time, there's no future, there's no past, there's just like this moment. And it's very much around sort of like remaining in that vibration. And I think this is part of sort of like what's needed at the moment, that we need to realize that in that moment, in that time, we're all creators. We create, and we work in union with the source energy. Again, it's also about this I keep talking about this state of, or this universal law of correspondence, where it's the inner world reflects and projects the outer world and creates the outer reality. It's also sort of like it's the gateway, it's the opening of our channel to our infinite self, and it is talking about sort of like the higher self or the infinite self. This time is very much around that. It's very much around when we open up and we align and we become in tune with that, then we actually start to allow that sort of infinite self and our channel to open. And then when we start to open to source energy, that starts to flow and integrate within our physical bodies. And this is part of what the illumination feeling is today, is when you're opening up to that, your vibrancy of life, your vibrancy of energy is there, because the source energy is connecting and sort of like integrating with you and with your energy field. And this is what this time's about. It's about, again, coming back into harmony, back into balance, back into peace, and union with those infinite energies that are working on the planet at the moment. They're helping to shift and raise consciousness. They're helping to shift and raise vibrations and frequencies, so that it becomes put back more aligned with the spiritual reality and spiritual spiritual reality, but also with source energy. Source energy is a really important sort of aspect of this shifting and changing of consciousness, and shifting and changing for us as spiritual beings as we start to go through this ascension process, which is again coming back into union, coming back into sort of oneness. And oneness is the process of where we're aligned again, that we awaken, and again it connects to source energy, which is all about unconditional. Source does not look at any being or any decision or anything that we do and judge or criticize. That's the limited self. That's another concept that was coming through over the last couple of days. You've got an infinite self and you've got a limited self. And limited self is where we start to sort of go into like criticism, judgment, fear, worry, doubt, and we start to sort of like lose that connection with trusting and aligning. The feelings I have this morning are very strongly around guidance and sort of like from sort of like the masters and the angels. Is they're with you every step of the way. They're sort of like they're walking alongside you. They're here to guide you, bring insight, bring awareness, but bring you back to yourself, which is this source energy. And this is what this time's about. It's more about that alignment. It's about trusting and opening. Opening is so important at the moment. Um, I feel this like quite strongly this morning as I woke up, and you know we all have our own sort of like it's all about limited self when you go into fear, worry, and doubt. But I've also sort of like been feeling this shift with the infinite self, and again this is part of like the universal law of transmutation and transformation is where we can shift and change anything at will. And also it's sort of like it's the knowing and the understanding that you know that light, that energy, that vibrancy is always with you. That source energy is always with you. It's never disconnected. It can't be disconnected because it's what you are. It's who you are. And when you start sort of like moving into that kind of consciousness, you start to see that there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to shift and change anything, and everything is created in that moment, in an instant. Um, Obviously, you've got things like the universal law of inspired action, which is where you get intuition, you get guidance, and then you act upon it, and then the physical world then aligns with that spiritual sort of insight or that wisdom that comes through. And when you act upon it, then you start to it starts to manifest and create in reality. And again, this connects to the universal law of attraction. Um, Obviously, you've got the universal law of polarity, where there's contrast to the universe. There's you know, and again with this kind of feelings around sort of like creation and manifestation and attraction, I feel at the moment there's very much sort of like as we start to shift and change, or we start to make choices within the infinite moment, there's also infinite possibilities and infinite options and paths and sort of like choices that we can make. And they create many different opportunities and many different sort of like paths that we can take. So, you know, it's also saying wherever you are and whatever you're doing in your life, there's always an opportunity through creation to make that shift and make that change. And again, this is the universal law of transmutation and transformation. And obviously, this law is very much connected to Saint Germain, who the ascended master that brings this understanding, this wisdom that you can shift and change, remove sort of blockages, be more aligned. But it also brings out obviously this violet flame that can dissolve and shift and change any kind of sort of like energy. You shift and change your energy to align it, to bring it into union. You've also got like Serapis Bay, which is very much around sort of like connects very sort of like strongly to ascension, which is coming back into the union of spirit and the union and understanding of walking as spirit and being connected to source energy. And the fact that you know at this time and in this moment there's so many portals, there's so many dimensions that are opening up and so many different frequencies that are coming. And I've been talking about anchoring in that sense is really important, because anchoring is where we start to vibrate as this universe, as this source being, and then we start to express it and express it in our lives and in our realities. And then what we start to do is connect, and create this kind of reality where we're more aligned, we're more connected, but we're also walking as spirit, we're walking as light and energy. And this is what this time's about, and this is why illumination is important. Illumination is about walking in light and expressing light. And all the masters did it, all the ascended beings did it. And that, like I said, there's not just like the ascended masters, there's infinite universal beings that have sort of like, that are very much sort of very much walking this light, and have ascended. And ascension doesn't just work on this plane. We look at ascension and ascended masters and these infinite ascended beings, but in reality, in the universal realms of light, there's many different realities, and there's many different ascension processes, and all beings are ascending in some way. And ascension again is going back to source, going back to oneness. But not all ascended masters and all ascended beings have been embodied. We know of a few on the planet, that walking on the planet. Saint Germain, Serapis Bey. They're talking about that these ascended masters. But ascension doesn't, the infinite source energy beyond this reality, beyond these realms, it doesn't stop there. That in the infinite realms of light, that beings are always ascending and always sort of like expanding and creating and moving back to source. So at this time though, it's very important that we start to sort of like walk in that light and express that light and become illuminated ourselves. Because when we start to illuminate our own lives, then we start to illuminate and bring it through these infinite vibrations and this source energy, and we start to bring this source energy and source creation back to the collective consciousness, back to the planet. And this will help to sort of like align with all the beings on the planet, which is the trees, the animals, everything, and it also helps to shift and change consciousness, which is what's needed, because the consciousness on the planet is still, it still needs to expand, and once it expands, it will also then align with like Mother Earth, Gaia. It will align with that to bring a new sort of a new state, a new vibration, a new frequency. But it will also start to bring a new way of understanding how to be in harmony with the planet, be in harmony with each other, be in harmony with and union within our own lives. So we start to create and align in a way that it brings this unity and this source creation, which is the source creation is about unconditional. It doesn't judge. There is no judgment. There is only light, and there's only oneness. There's only a one vibration, and this is what source energy is. And this is how you know you're in source energy, when you're able to be in a moment where you're vibrating in perfect unity, union and unity with things, but you're also not judging. We will judge because we have a limited self, but the idea is when you judge, and you criticize in your limited self, then you move back, to your infinite self, which is this source energy that understands that alignment is unconditional, union is unconditional. So it's about trying to be in a state of where we keep, again, this is the dissolve, this is the transmutation and transformation aspect of universal law, where we're constantly in this human form looking at how we can reassess things or look at things to come back into light, come back into understanding, come back into wisdom, come back into union, joy, and all these things that are unconditional, that are all reflections of source energy. And this is what this time's about, and this is what we're here to do now. So that's the insight for today. Please check out my Facebook page, like, subscribe, follow, comment. Have a great day.